Ribs. Hey guys, we're here at the Masterbuilt. We've got it set at 225. We've topped it off with Jealous Devil Hardwood Lump, my personal favorite. We also added just about a handful of cherry chunks just to give it that nice, subtle, sweet smokiness that we want. Alan's over at the prep table, and we'll send it over to him.
What's going on, everybody? Cannot wait to get these ribs on the Masterbuilt. The first thing we need to do is get rid of this membrane along the back of the ribs. I've already taken just a common butter knife, worked it open a little bit. Now what you're gonna wanna do is just take a ordinary paper towel, get a good grip, and hopefully this comes right off. Once that's off, we can move on to seasoning these things. Now from here, I'm gonna go ahead and use, this is my personal favorite seasoning for a lot of things, but definitely for ribs. It's Honey Chipotle Killer Bee from Kosmo's Q. I've been using it for about a year and a half. It's the undisputed seasoning champion of my face. I love this stuff. I could actually probably eat it like candy, but I'm gonna show some restraint. I'm just gonna cover our ribs with it. So nice and steady. I tend to use a decent amount of rub, especially this one considering I like it. It's sweet, but it also has a nice chipotle, a little bit of a zip to it. I wouldn't necessarily call it spicy, but it does lay a nice little contrast of foundation with sweet and spicy. So once I get a nice little bit there, flip them over and do the front. At home I have a shaker, but I couldn't find it, so I grabbed one of my backup bags. Does Alan have multiple bags of Honey Chipotle Killer Bee? You bet he does. So the one other thing that I do stress, I might feel like you're wasting a little rub that is inaccurate. I like to make sure I do my best to coat the sides as well. Part of that's presentation, but the other part is I don't know. There's something about having something unfinished that's irritating, I would assume for you guys as well. So once I've got these sides done, I'm a maniac, and I'm gonna throw a little dusting on the top again. Get these off, and onto our grill. I'm gonna go meet up with Tom. Woo, buddy, it smells good over here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the grill or if it's the ribs. Either way, it's smelling really good.
It's about to be both.
Yeah. Now is the time we're gonna actually put them onto the Masterbuilt. Temperature's already good to go. Ribs are already seasoned, ready to go. We're just gonna put them on. We're gonna come back about an hour and a half to 2 hours through. Probably more likely 2 hours, just to make sure we get a nice solid smoke on there, and then come back, check the temp, and we'll go from there.
So for today, because there's not a whole lot of reason to try to put beer inside of ribs, we decided to just drink something we love and something that's gonna be a perfect complement to insanely savory pork.
The idea is the kind of the sweet and the heat to go along with the beer we're using today is Too Much Cologne. It's a collab beer between Plank Road Tap Room and Crystal Lake Brewing. The beer should balance that sweet heat that you're gonna get from the ribs.
It's a really well done Kolsch, and it's been an ongoing collaboration for several years now, which is a really cool thing.
It's impressive, yeah.
Just meant as a celebration of friendship, so that even pairs even better with hanging out with friends and family and having smoked meat, right?
Oh, for sure.
Kolsch is kind of fairly simple to explain. It's a style that comes from a very specific region in Germany, Cologne, depending on where you're from and how you pronounce
How you
it.
want to say it for sure.
To be an actual Kolsch, it has to be brewed there. So this is a Kolsch style ale. We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful representation. A Kolsch is just a top fermenting, really, really well attenuated, crispy beer. It was meant to kind of ward off and compete against the skyrocketing popularity of Pilsners and Helles lagers and things like that in the late 1800s. And this just, it hits the spot. You get, with this one, you get a subtle, like a white grape kind of note that just goes really well with how effervescent and delicious this beer is.
Yeah, it's really bright, really vibrant, crystal clear, as you can see. Probably you can even see through it. It's incredibly clear.
If you look at the actual descriptions for Kolsch, that is the number one bone to pick with a Kolsch, is that thing needs to be incredibly clear. And commercial examples filter that beer. This happens to not be filtered. We just happen to figure out that Ryan can make a really clear beer, which
100%.
is awesome. But this is a beer that's been important to both of us in our kind of journeys through beer and
Sure, definitely.
food and pairings and friendships and all that kind of stuff. And we just thought, hey, rather than try to crowbar beer into the actual recipe, let's crowbar beer into ourselves.
Yeah.
And beer that we really like. So
Yeah, nothing goes better with ribs than a delicious, refreshing beer, and this is the perfect one to go with ribs.
And we just happen to have traditional Kolsch glasses.
And an unlimited supply.
And we just went through several web pages to make sure that we pronounced it correctly. And it's Stange.
Stange.
Stange. It's spelled like Stangy, but it's Stange.
Stange.
And so you guys out there, Prost.
Prost.
We'll see you at the grill.
Yes. Alright guys, we are back at the grill. We're ready to do our first temp check on these ribs. So we're about an hour and a half in. We're kind of hovering around in the 170s on temperature, which is a good temp for us to pull these off, take them over to Alan, and wrap them.
All right, these ribs are looking tremendous. I am really excited to get these wrapped. I'm gonna give you a couple of just base points, at least on the way I do a wrap. I take a little bit of my Pendy Chipotle Killer Bee, lay down a little bit of a base coat. Doesn't have to be a ton. It's just a little bit to keep the mojo going. What I typically do is lay just a little drizzle of sauce down. For this particular one, I'm not going to. I've already done one with the sauce. We're gonna do one without. Tom's not necessarily a sauce it in the foil guy, and we're just gonna kind of compare notes at the end. But just keep in mind, generally speaking at this point, I would just lay down one nice little drizzle here. Then we take our, just lay it down. Whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom and vice versa. Hit it with a little more candy. The wind is insane in the Chicago area today. That's why I got stuff weighed down right now, and that's why you're probably hearing a nice little whoosh to go along with that rooster noise that we've got going on. Now, the next part is to wrap this. What I like to do is wrap as tight as possible, because if you're not gonna wrap as tight as possible, you probably don't need to wrap it. You're probably totally dialed in at that point. We're gonna wrap it. So I take both ends, get them down, just a nice little tuck underneath, Do the same thing with this side. Don't be afraid to get in there and get a tight seal. Then what I do, I take this over and I do fold it as tight as I can get it. And then there's two things you can do. You can either bring them to a point, lunch bag wrap them. I tend to just tuck nice and tight around the edge. So you wanna make sure that you have enough foil. I use 2 pieces of foil just because I'm deathly afraid of poking holes in it. Once you do this last final smush down on the foil, this is about as tight as you're gonna get. This is gonna take any moisture that's inside and keep it in there. We're gonna push over 200 degrees. We're gonna shoot for right on 203. See if we can't get these bones to just slide out. So let's just get them back on the grill. All right, so we just checked our ribs again. These things are cooking so well and so fast right now that we're having a hard time wrapping our minds around it. Either way, they are so tender right now. We're just gonna pull them off. Normally, I tend to at least go like a half hour to an hour outside of the foil afterwards to just kind of finish them off. There's no way we need to do that right now, and we cook to temperature around here. We don't waste time worrying about a process that may or may not mean anything. So we're gonna go ahead and get these things pulled off, plate them, cut them, find out if they're tender, and tell you what we think.
So they taste incredible. You get that sweet heat from the honey chipotle killer bee. You can pull the meat off the bone and it comes off clean. There's nothing really hanging around. It's super tender. The flavor is incredible. What I love about the cherry wood is it gives it that additional subtle sweetness. Cherry wood's my ultimate favorite with smoking any kind of meat. I just prefer cherry wood, and it really comes through in this. Not to mention the too much Cologne. It's a perfect pairing.
I'm at a loss for words, maybe because my mouth's full. I can't say anything more than Tom just said. The only thing stopping me from grabbing this beer and complimenting these ribs is the fact that my hands have sauce and rub and awesomeness all over them. One slab had the sauce, one doesn't. Both were wrapped the exact same way. I really don't see or taste a whole or feel a whole lot of difference in tenderness or flavor. I mean, the sauce tastes different, but it's not like...
Yeah, it's not gonna drastically change the outcome.
No.
Just because we use just a little bit.
Yeah, and I prefer a dry. I do wrap my ribs with a little bit of sauce.
Yeah.
But I do that because I don't typically sauce my ribs after the fact.
Right.
I don't have sauce on my plate. I don't drizzle. I don't do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think we both prefer the drier meats.
Right.
As far as sauciness goes.
Yeah, not as far as tenderness, but as far as just the
added sauce.
Yeah, the condiments and such. But you eat your ribs the way you want to eat your ribs. I mean, we're not here to change anybody's mind. I guess the moral of today's story is find a beer that you want to drink with your food the way you like it done. And if this is your first time or you're finding us on YouTube and you haven't tackled ribs yet, or you have and maybe didn't have the greatest experience, the best advice I could give you, cook to temperature.
Oh, for sure.
And don't worry about, we needed to wrap these within an hour and a half.
Yep.
That's typically not how that goes, at least when I do it.
No.
It's been a little quick today. And when we opened the foil, we didn't need to finish them on the grill. They were done.
Yep.
And anything we were going to do above and beyond that was just us following some process that we didn't create.
Yeah, and it wasn't really necessary. So again, we've said it before, cook to temp. If you do that, you'll come out with tender meat, you'll come out with good quality product, and you'll be happy. You'll be satisfied.
And realistically, that's the only reason that you're doing this anyway, right? It's
for sure.
Have a good time.
For that final outcome, yeah.
So To that, I say onward and upward, and I think
yeah.
ribs were super successful
Man,
today,
they're delicious.
and this will not be our last rib episode.
No, there's so much more we can do with ribs, and you guys will have to wait to see.
Take it easy.
Yep, cheers. Man, that was a really fun episode to shoot.
Dude, I had a blast. I can't wait to do the next one.
Yeah.
If you guys could do us a favor, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that bell when you get the chance, because that's gonna give you the heads up when we drop some new material.
Yeah, which will be soon. So
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. That next cook we're gonna do, you were tell me again, man, because it's gonna be awesome.
yeah, I've got this really crazy idea.